Hello and welcome to our virtual yoga class. My name is Vanessa and I'm here to support you for the rest of your practice. As a reminder, this is a holistic yoga class. Therefore, we're purposely creating those connections of our physical, mental, emotional body. And we do that through our breath. So we'll begin by laying on our backs, softening down our neck, down our spine, all the way down to our toes. So beginning class with a restorative pose, inhaling and exhaling, sighing out, noticing that as we transition to lay on the mat, we are entering our practice. And it takes a lot of mental concentration to shift your attention continuously back to the body and to the breath. And so we'll practice letting go of those to-do lists, letting go of those rushed thoughts, and invite that present moment awareness. Inhale and exhale, belly expanding as you inhale. If you have trouble concentrating, try lengthening your inhale and exhale a little longer than you're accustomed. Once you do a couple of cycles of that, it's a good practice to shift your attention back to your body. It takes that extra bit of effort to lengthen your inhale and your exhale to a point that's comfortable, not to a point that's uncomfortable. Deep, full breaths can actually not be that easy sometimes. So notice where you're at, no judgment of where your breath is. Notice the point that your body touches the mat. Your heels, your lower back, backs of your hands, the back of your head. And then I recommend inhaling here, exhaling, sighing out. And then start to bend that right knee. Take your hand to cup that knee, round your spine, forehead towards your knee. 5 rounds, leading through that core. Flexing your left foot towards the front, keeping your elbows close to your torso. Being mindful of taking your forehead towards your knee, chin towards chest, to find that release in the upper back, neck. Keep that left foot flexed towards the front. It's going to invite some more stability and also invite that the left leg remains active. And then once you've done 5 rounds, release, and then opposite side, bend your left knee. Take your hands to wrap that knee, forehead up towards your knee, and then drop your head back. Noticing your rounding of the lower back, mid back, upper back. Flexing your right foot towards the front. Move through 5 rounds. And then release. Bend both knees, both feet float off the floor. Round your spine. Drop your head back. From here, shift and move your legs in a circle. So I'm grabbing my knees, I'm bringing my knees close towards my belly, towards my chest. And then I start to swivel, it can be either direction. Here I'm swiveling towards the right, using my hands to push my knees, and then making a circle, massaging around the lower back as I work on this circle. Placing some weight there in the lower back, the areas where your hips join your lower back. You can rock a little bit towards the left and towards the right. Massage the area around the tailbone. And now drop both feet onto the mat. Palms on the mat. Lift your hips just a few inches off the floor. As you lift your hips a few inches off the floor, notice weight distributed on your heels. Notice an activating glute and quads, and then release. Take a breath to transition here. Inhale, exhale. And now lift your hips a little higher, noticing activation in the glutes and the quads. Distribute weight on your heels. Release. And then on this third round, take a breath to transition here. Inhale, exhale. On the third round, lift your hips as high as you can. So you're placing a lot of weight here on your heels. Glutes and quads are active. Now you're activating a gentle stretch throughout the abdomen. Imagine a cord lifting your belly, your chest up towards the ceiling. Hold. You have the option of interlacing your fingers and then purposely drawing your shoulder blades together. It's going to create some more lift. Or just keep your hands, palms on the mat. Take a deep belly breath here. You have access to full diaphragm breathing. What that refers to is that your belly can fully expand on an inhale. There are no restrictions around the belly. Hold. We have a tendency to collapse our hips. Lift your hips as high as you can. And release your hips back down towards the floor. Grab your feet with your hands. Feet float off the floor. And once again, we'll commence with those circles, or you can rock towards the left, towards the right. And now lengthen both legs up towards the ceiling. Flex your feet. Imagine you're trying to point your toes downwards towards you while lengthening your legs here. So you're breathing to your hamstrings and calves. Palms can remain on the mat or resting on your belly if you want some extra support and being attentive with your breath. Flex your feet. The more you flex your feet and point your toes downwards towards you, you're going to activate more of that stretch around the calves. Imagine you're pressing your feet on an invisible wall or an invisible floor. And by imagining that you're pressing your feet against a wall or floor, whatever activates your imagination there, as you're inviting that, you'll notice a deeper stretch in the hamstrings, much more strength here throughout the quads. Deep belly breath. And now rotate your ankles. You'll notice just by starting to rotate, you start to soften and relax around the hamstrings and quads. We tend to not place a lot of attention to our heels and toes, so take a moment here. Ankles, you can point them, hold. And then activating your core, slowly release your legs, lengthening your legs, activating core strength, glute strength, quad strength, and hold. Your feet can hover 1 foot, 2 feet off the floor, and then drop your feet. Bring both soles of the feet together. Soften and relax here. Opening your hips, imagining your knees fall further towards the floor. Let's rest our hands on our belly, our chest. Inhale and exhale. Invite a generous breath. This is the breath you can go back to at any time throughout your day, any time throughout your week. Inhale and exhale. Soften neck down to your lower back and hips. Gather an inhale. And exhale. Release. Let's plant our palms onto the mat. Lift up. And then as you lift, we'll adjust here, lengthening both legs. Let's flex our feet, lengthen our spine. Drop your belly towards your thighs, fold. Hands can reach anywhere. Hands can reach on your thighs, shins, or toes. Now we'll remain here a few cycles of breath. Allow yourself to deepen. Breathing into the stretch. Seeing where can you fold just a little bit more. And sometimes folding just a little bit more, it's really just a matter of lengthening your spine a little bit more, drawing your shoulders back, dropping your belly towards your thighs. Gather a powerful breath here. Few more breaths. And release. Bring both soles of the feet together. Lean down with your chest, your heart, and fold. Elbows can rest on the insides of your knees. Same principle here, breathing into your boundaries, seeing where can you fold a little bit more. Two more breaths. And release. We'll go ahead and transition. Let's go ahead and shift into a tabletop, planting our hands right beneath our shoulders, knees, hips width distance apart. We're going to inhale up, cow pose, exhale, round your spine, cat pose. Pretty standard poses. Do be mindful of your palms pressing on the mat, tops of the feet on the floor, the rounding of the spine in your cat pose. The lifting of the tailbone, opening of the chest in your cow pose. Get that full benefit of releasing the upper back, mid back, and lower back. Moving with your breath or staying in a cat pose or cow pose for a few extra breaths. Once you've taken a few breath cycles here, we'll come back to a neutral position. We're going to go ahead and activate some balance here by lifting our right leg. Hold here. First, let's open up our hips. Let's bend our right knee, stack our hips. You're opening your glute and your hip, and you're also stretching throughout the quad by bending your knee. Now lengthen your leg back, and now right leg parallel to the floor. Plant that right hand firmly on the mat and lift your left arm. Take a nice, even, generous breath. And then release your hand, release your knee. And then opposite side, lift your left leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. And now lengthen your leg, lift your right arm. Inhale. And then exhale, release your hand, release your knee. Inhale up, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine, back pose. We'll lift up into a downward facing dog. Breathe into your downward facing dog. Imagining you're inhaling to the pores of your skin, exhaling to the pores of your skin. Full body breath. Pressing through your palms, bringing your chest closer towards your thighs, lifting your heels and your hips. Breathing into the backs of your legs. You're in this inversion, let your neck and head soften. And now shift to plank pose. Hold your plank pose, lifting your core up towards the ceiling. Drop down, inhale up, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take about 3 generous breaths in your downward facing dog. And then shift to plank pose. Release down towards the floor. Ideally, you're inhaling as you're lifting into that upward facing dog. Glutes are engaged in upward facing dog. And then lift downward facing dog. Once you find that exhale, remain here 3 breaths in your down dog. Gathering your breath, gathering that inner stillness and spaciousness, noticing the strength in this downward facing dog. Shift to plank pose. Release down towards the floor. Inhale up, upward facing dog. Exhale, down dog. 3 breaths in your down dog, noticing the strength of this pose. Breathe into the backs of your legs. Plant your palms firmly on the mat. Last round, plank pose, core active, glutes as well. Release down towards the floor. Tops of the feet are on the mat as you lift up into an upward facing dog. Exhale, shift into a downward facing dog. 3 breaths in your down dog. Feel free to hear your inhale, hear your exhale. And then start to lift your left leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. And now left knee shifts towards that left elbow, hover. And then lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. And then opposite side, lift your right leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Take that right foot towards that right elbow, hover. Press through your palms, your hands, lift your leg back again, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release back into a downward facing dog. Hold your down dog. Notice that full body strength here. Soften neck and head in this inversion. Feel free to hear your inhale and your exhale. And then release your knees down towards the floor. Step back, child's pose. Inhaling, receiving anything that supports you. Exhaling, releasing anything that doesn't. Two more intentional breaths in your child's pose. And then release, lifting into a downward facing dog. 3 breaths in your down dog. After those 3 breaths, take your gaze between your hands, walk or jump up to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, release, sweep your arms up overhead. You're extending through the spine as you lift your arms up. Remain here, extended mountain pose. So your palms are facing each other, chest is open. You can lift your gaze. Hold. Arms are active. You're lengthening your arms. There's a slight arch to your spine. Take your palms to touch. And then mountain pose, palms touching. Let's inhale here, exhale, eyes open or closed. Noticing that inner stillness and spaciousness that we're cultivating right now. We're inhaling and exhaling for the day we've had. Inhaling and exhaling for this moment. And then inhaling and exhaling for the rest of our day. Release your hands. We'll shift into our warrior 2, taking our left foot forward and stepping our right leg back. Right foot's in a diagonal. We're gonna invite a 90-degree bend to our left knee. So for that warrior 2, our hips are naturally open here. Left arm and right arm are parallel to the floor. Take your gaze over your left fingertips. Try to keep your gaze steady here. Legs are active. That means your glutes and your quads are active, supporting here. Notice the opening in the hip. This is a pose of strength and stability. And now release your right hand behind your thigh. Lift your left arm up. Back to center, warrior 2, inhale, exhale. Bring your right arm over. Imagine you're holding a ball between your hands, a big beach ball. Keep a bend to that left knee. And now drop your elbow onto your thigh, lift your right arm up. Either remain here or lengthen your left knee, drop your hand all the way down towards an ankle or shin or the floor. Keep your gaze up towards the ceiling. And then be mindful as you release. Both hands frame that left foot. Pivot that right foot. So now you're in a lunge. Press that right palm or right hand onto the floor. Lift your left arm up. Optionally, you can release that right knee onto the mat. Release your hands, step back, downward facing dog. If you want to take a vinyasa for a more active class, take that vinyasa. We take our gaze between our hands, walk and jump up to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, release, keep your arms up overhead intentionally. We are going to come into that extended mountain pose. Remain here, arms are lifted. Palms facing each other, chest is open, shoulders slide down. Now both palms come to touch. Cultivating that inner stillness. Noticing as we take a powerful inhale and exhale, we are welcoming our experience. We notice that our breath is a tool to create those connections of the physical, mental, emotional body. Feel free to inhale here, exhale, side out, releasing tension from earlier in the day, last week, generally 2020. Inhale, exhale, sigh out. Release your hands. Warrior two, this time right foot steps forward, left leg steps back. Arms to a T, 90-degree bend to that right knee. Keep your gaze steady on a point across your right fingertips. Make sure that your shoulders aren't crunching up next to your neck. Soften your shoulders. Quad and glutes are active, arms as well. Notice your core strength. Steady breath. This is a pose of focus and stability. Release that left hand, bring that right arm up. Stretch here in the lower body and side body. Back to center, inhale. Exhale, drop your elbow right on top of your thigh. Lift your left arm up, either remaining here or extending that right knee and then dropping your hand down towards the mat. Spin down, pivot your left foot, low lunge. Press that left palm onto the floor, lift your right arm up. Inhale. And then exhale, release your hands, step back, downward facing dog. Soften your neck and head. If you want a more active class, take your vinyasa. Inhale, exhale. We meet in our downward facing dog. 3 rounds of a vinyasa. Plank pose, release down towards the floor. Inhale up, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, exhale. You can remain here a few cycles of breath or move a little quicker from plank pose down towards the floor. Inhale up, upward facing dog. Exhale, down dog. One more round. Plank pose, release down towards the floor. Inhale up. Upward facing dog. We lift our left leg. Take our left knee towards our left elbow and then drop our knee right behind our wrist. We're preparing for pigeon pose. You can lift here, spine long. Start to sink into that left hip. And then explore that pigeon pose. You can keep your head lifted or drop your forehead to a fist or all the way down towards the mat. You're dropping your belly towards the floor, allowing that hip to open up. Try to release any rounding in the spine. I'm going to drop your belly towards the floor. Few breath cycles here. Two or three more breaths. I'm going to start to curl those right toes. Plant those palms onto the mat. Lift up, downward facing dog. If for you want a more active class, take your vinyasa. Otherwise, we lift our right leg and then take our right knee towards that right elbow. We hover and release our knee. Take a moment to step that leg back, lengthen your spine. Start to sink into that right hip. And then drop your forearms onto the floor, either keeping your head lifted or forehead towards fist or floor. Release any rounding throughout the spine. Drop your belly towards the mat. Inhale. And exhale. Release. Lift back up, downward facing dog. You can take your last vinyasa of the class. Drop your knees down towards the mat and then shift back into a child's pose. Taking a moment to gather your breath. Inhaling, receiving anything that supports you. Exhaling, releasing anything that does not. Inhale. And exhale. Release. We'll start to shift out of your child's pose to sit in a cross-legged position. We're going to make sure we take care of our neck, upper back areas that often store a lot of tension. So first, we're going to take our chin and look over our left shoulder. Hold. Notice what's there for you. Hands lay softly on your knees. And our left chin towards your left chin towards the opposite shoulder. Come back to center. Lift your chin up towards the ceiling. Drop your chin towards your chest. And now roll your head from one shoulder to the next. Either half a circle or full circle. If you prefer to work on meditation, you can bring your head back to a point of stillness. Otherwise, a few more breaths. Noticing the size of the neck, front and back, upper back, mid back, shoulders. Three more breaths, inhaling, exhaling. And then start to bring your head back to a neutral position, hands softly on your knees. Let's inhale here, exhale, side out. Let's bring our shoulders up towards our ears and then back once, and then up towards our ears, forward once. Start to lengthen your legs out into a V, the shape of a V. And then leading through your chest, twist towards the right. Drop your belly towards your thigh. Hands can reach thigh, shins, or toes. So our goal here is eventually to fold down the middle. So keep that in mind as you're here. Deep belly breath. And then release. Lead through your chest, belly towards the left, fold. Inhale. Exhale. Release and back to center. A little bend to your knees. Hold. You can inch your hands forward here to support you. Feel free to hear your inhale and your exhale. And then release. Go ahead and bring your legs together. We're gonna shift. Make sure you have room to lay down. We're going to drop our elbows onto the mat. And now here we're going to simultaneously lift our core, our abdomen up towards the ceiling as we drop our head back. So it's critical that you lift your core abdomen to comfortably drop your head back, opening your throat. Hold. And now drop all the way back. Full body stretch, lift your arms up overhead, point your toes. Gather a rejuvenating breath. And then release. Start to bring your legs up, knees are bent, feet float off the floor. Drop your knees towards the right, bring your arms out to a T, drop your head towards the left. Practice softening your body. Neck and the spine to your hips. Invite a comfortable breath. See where can you soften just 10% further. And then knees come back to center. Drop your knees towards the left. Drop your head towards the right. Soften hips, lower back. Up the spine. To your shoulders. And then start to release your twist here. Feet float off the floor, hands on your knees, rock to the left, to the right. And then start to release into your final resting pose. However, there's one more pose that will help you feel more complete for the class. Go ahead and take a moment with that last pose. And if you're in your last resting pose, start to invite that inner stillness and spaciousness. You cultivate it throughout the class. And this last pose is a time to integrate that even further, releasing and letting go physical, mental, emotional energy, receiving mental, emotional, physical energy, integrating. It can be a very explicit process. It can be ambiguous as well. You want to give room for a full breadth of that sort of experience. Notice the wisdom of slowing down. Either invite intentional breaths or allow your breath to go back to its regular rhythm. Soften your forehead, jaw, neck. Shoulders down to your elbows, wrists, and fingertips. Soften the upper back, mid back, lower back. Down to your hips, the area around your tailbone. Down your legs, behind your knees, to your ankles and toes. Observe any thoughts, any sensations without judgment, just notice. Notice that inner stillness and spaciousness. And then we'll start to shift our attention back to our breath, inviting a generous and leisurely inhale and exhale. Restore some movement to your fingertips and toes. You have the option of inviting a full body stretch or turning your body to one side. Please invite that generous breath, the one that welcomes that stillness and that spaciousness. And then we'll seal the class, lifting up to our seated position. Notice that by inviting an intentional breath, we are inviting our experience intentionally. So make any adjustments here. Invite a generous breath. And let's take our hands to our heart center. Deep inhale here and exhale. And in the tradition of yoga, the highest in me sees the highest in you. May we walk with each other in gratitude.